Eissler from East Coast Florida, mostly Ormond Beach, Daytona Beach shores. I started surfing in high school, and I was becoming, I think, bored with the tennis team, and I wanted to do something different, and I saw all the guys having a great time out there and decided it would be a great opportunity to break into something different. So I purchased a board, ordered it from California, and it was an 810 Hansen with redwood stringers, and I just was in love with it. And I taught myself how to surf at the beach. I never saw any other girls, and not until a little bit later, and that's when I made friends with some of the friends that I've kept for the rest of my life. I met Linda Baron at her hotel, Palm Plaza, Little Pink Cottages, and I was walking my board over to the beach, and we met. And we got to know each other and began surfing together and had a great time. And I met Mimi Monroe at, I believe, one of my first surf contests, which was in Ormond Beach, at the Ormond Beach Pier. And we ended up being friends as well and spent a lot of time together surfing, going up on safaris. All of us, we went on safaris together, and it was great. And I had a 37.4 Deuce Coupe, which I have a picture of, and we would stick the boards in the big, huge trunk, and we managed to fit ourselves in the front and only seat. And one time we were on the beach, and after surfing, we came up the Ormond approach, and the antique car parade happened to be on, but we got waved into the parade, and we were a big hit in our palm frond woven hats going down Granada Avenue in my 37.4 Deuce Coupe. We went to contests. I have a picture of us all piling into different station wagons, and that was with Daytona Beach Surf Shop, George Miller's surfboard outfit. And sometime later on, I was asked to join the Hobie Surf Team with Dick Catri, which was a nice honor as well. And there was a lot of opportunity to go on surf safaris up the coast to various contests, even in other states, including North Carolina, where and Virginia, Beach, Virginia, where they had the U.S. championships. So on the Hobie Surf Team, when we went up the coast, all the way to New York, and did some contests and some exhibitions, we really we stuck together, at least I did with the main group. I'm not sure if anyone else wandered off, but there wasn't any time. We were even traveling like at night to get to the next place. So it was all about the surf and the competition and the exhibition, no wandering off to an art museum or exploring some other place because there wasn't any time. But we did get to see a lot. And in New York City, we wandered as a group down into the Village, and we went to a coffee house, typical coffee house where there were guitar players and folk music going on. So I'm very grateful to have been right there in that spot during that era, because it was unforgettable. So during the contest days, I happened to get in Surfing East magazine with some of my history, and which was very complimentary, and I was grateful and I was honored. And then at the World Surfing Championships in San Diego, I happened to catch the photographer's eye who worked for Sports Illustrated. Even though I got 9th in the contest, I happened to get that picture, and that was nice. And I also got a shot in Life magazine, which I liked quite a bit. So I had my share, and then I continued school and let other people have their turn. And after I graduated from Daytona Beach Community College there with my associate degree, I had applied to a college called the Semester at Sea on a large ship out of California. The Holland America Line had one of the old ships called the Rhine Dam appointed to serve as a college classrooms aboard the sea. And you spent a whole semester circumnavigating the globe. So the surfing experience taught me so much about enjoying nature and this beautiful planet we call Earth that I wanted to see more of it. And I wanted to see everything I could in a short period of time, and this afforded me the possibility of getting a good head start on that. So we left New York and circumnavigated the globe, making many stops in many exotic ports where I surfed and explored temples and climbed mountains and went on photographic safari in Africa. And we ended up in last port being Honolulu before LA. And when we got to LA, I informed my parents that I was going to be returning to Hawaii to finish my last year and a half or so at the University of Hawaii, where I attended in the university in Manoa Valley, and my major was art history. So when I was at the university, Linda.baron and I were corresponding, and Linda expressed an interest in coming out to Hawaii too, so I invited her to come out, and I picked her up at the airport, and there was room in a rental home that was right down the street from the university, and we just had a great time exploring the islands and surfing, and Linda even got a job out there too. We both worked. It was amazing. We were very busy, but it was beautiful. I remember going to school barefoot. That was the thing, and it was great to just go in like a simple clothing, maybe with just a sarong and a simple top, and flowers in your hair. And it was during that time where the flowers in the hair was just the thing, you know, going to San Francisco and so forth. It was very hip, and so then when I graduated from there, I ended up teaching art in various locations, many exotic locations, including Brazil, where I was a teacher in the Peace Corps, and I also taught for a year in the Virgin Islands and at Frederiksted at Claudio Marco Elementary for the whole year, and then I came back and taught for 2 years in Volusia County. When I was finished at the University of Hawaii, I needed some other direction, and I wanted to go to an exotic place that I hadn't ever seen before, but I also I envisioned a peaceful world. This was in the middle of Vietnam. Everything was upside down. Our generation began questioning the rights and the wrongs and who's ruling us and what the rules are and why, all the whys. And all I knew is that this world deserved to be peaceful, with peaceful people all getting along on it, and I wanted to be a part somehow. So I found out about the Peace Corps, and they were taking new applicants. So I went ahead and applied, and it was a lengthy process. I had to be checked out very thoroughly, and I made the grade somehow. So I was appointed to go to Brazil. You have no choice. You have a small choice of maybe 2 or 3 locations, but mine were all either South American or Central American, so I chose Brazil. And we got continued training first, including the language. We were sent by the expense of the U.S. government out to Arizona because it was a similar climate to where I was going to be assigned. And we had total immersion language class in Portuguese. So by the time I finished, I was speaking in Portuguese, dreaming in Portuguese, and I was ready to be a part of Brazil. And I loved Brazil, mostly Rio, but I was signed to Rio Grande do Norte, which is up in the big part of Brazil that sticks the furthest out into the Atlantic. And it's almost desert-like, but our training there was on the coast, and that was very enjoyable, of course. I like to be on the coast. And then we were sent way inland, and somehow or another, I contracted amoeba, and so I got into the hospital, and I didn't stay too long in Brazil because I was too sick. I surfed in Ipanema, the place where the song with the girl, and I loved it. and it was a nice break coming from sort of like our jetty situation here. And I was very happy to have surfed in Brazil. I did some surfing in South Africa, by the way, on that world cruise, and I did in Durban and also in Portugal and of course Hawaii, and I'm very glad there are a few other spots. In fact, it was after the Peace Corps I came back and decided I was ready to go back to the good old USA. I got a job in a travel agency, and I was helping to sell cruises and all, but I also did research on freighter travel, and I found out about a ridiculously affordable freighter that went throughout the southern Antilles, the eastern Caribbean down there towards the south of the Caribbean, and it was for people to take their fruit and vegetables. It was like a taxi going from island to island, but they also took tourists. And so I found out about it and told Linda, and she was interested. So we got ourselves together and flew all the way to St. Croix, a stopping ground for us, before we made it on down to where the ship was taking off in St. Kitts. So we visited some of my old friends in St. Croix that I had met when I was teaching the year before, and stayed at the Peace Corps compound up a mountain. We missed the plane to St. Kitts, but we flew the Goose from where we were in St. Croix over to St. Thomas, and then from St. Thomas to Antigua and then St. Kitts. So we had a chance to see a couple more islands. I remember Linda did love that, the Goose ride. That's the plane that can land on the water. So in fact, we got to sit in the cockpit. We took turns with the pilots. So we landed on St. Kitts, and it was a big party time called the Feta time, and we found a great hotel in it was a little guest house, and however, a party was going on all night with trumpets and everything else. So we had a hard time getting our sleep. Then I remember distinctly the next morning, a woman going up and down the street at about 6 o'clock in the morning, telling everybody at the top of her voice to repent. Soon it was time to get on our boat, which was an ugly old freighter, and it was filthy, but we slept on deck. There was a giant hold where they put all the bananas. I have a picture of this with everybody carrying their goods that they grew, that they were going to be taking to the next island. And we did this from island to island to island, only instead of selling our vegetables and fruit, we would go exploring to the nth degree, taking every hour of the day to explore and surf. We did not bring our own boards, there was no room, but we would find people that would be on beaches with boards, and sometimes hotels had boards, and we would avail ourselves of some of the amenities, the pools. But we visited botanical gardens in St. Lucia, which I have a picture of, and we were proposed to several times by the various natives that would take us on tour in their either taxi or we would just meet people where they were working, and they needed teachers desperately. So it was a big temptation to just perhaps fly home and then fly back with our supplies and just stay and work there. However, we had committed to jobs in the United States. All of our other exploration experiences on the other islands was very nice. People were friendly everywhere. It's just the last island we got to, Trinidad, before our flight home, there was mention of black power. There was a lot of kind of worrisome attitudes going on at the time. We stayed at the University of Trinidad dorms for that night until the plane flight back was available. And it was a little touchy, it was a little scary because Linda and I heard this person dragging their feet up and down the dorm hall and then like not trying our doorknob, and I put the chair up underneath the doorknob so that they couldn't get in. But other than that, it was quite peaceful in those days in the islands. Linda and I explored 13 islands and surfed where we could find a board. So some of these trips, this particular trip that Linda and I went on with all those islands, every island was going to be in the next big surprise. And it was just like finding paradise at every stop when we explored and found just so many beautiful places. And a couple of the islands, I actually said that they far beat Hawaii for the beauty and the fact that they were still unspoiled and very peaceful people, no hustle bustle yet, just all beautiful scenery. So the smells, the scenery, seeing the breakers coming off a brand new surprise spot was just an amazing and very exciting experience. This is the journal that I wrote in 1972. This is the exact same journal. Okay, then I've got Dominica. Very lush from every angle. We got off and began to hassle with the bus and taxi drivers over everyone wants to grab you and take you on their kind of tour. We wanted to see something, so we decided to try this guy who said he could get a bus. Such a hassle anyway. We had an argument because he was so unbusinesslike, and finally he decided to take Linda and I to the falls and hot springs, etc., all around for free. We thought that was pretty good, so we went. We hiked up the mountain to the falls, swam in the clear water. Then he and his friend took us to the hot springs. They proposed to us. Then I explained that I couldn't because of my ideals being so different from his and West Indian customs, and all about my Bible studies and morals. That was okay with him, so he was willing to be converted. We found out, and he had several calypso recordings, etc., and had a great time laughing. I gave him a truth book, and since he expressed sincere desire to get to know God, we prayed about it. Then we said farewell. On our little stop at Barbados, we went surfing out on the one end. We're at Christchurch at a famous surf spot, and they were beautiful 3-foot waves just peeling off. We borrowed a surfboard, but then we found another family that was there surfing and borrowed theirs. So Linda and I both had a board, and we had a great time. We were very sad to leave Barbados. We were very sad to leave all the islands.